Morning everybody, hope you're having a lovely day. Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on something that somebody had asked me on my comments to do. Again, holiday season's coming up. We need simple, quick little presents for the bus driver or the school teacher or the lady at the library. Just as something small but thoughtful. I quite like making these, and I have to say they're a pot holder. All right, it's a pot holder. But the person, I believe it was Jen from Canada, I think that's who it was, actually put a link to an instructional. It wasn't a video or YouTube, it was an instructions to make this pot holder. And I was looking at it, but I do things on my own, but it's the same exact look that we're going to be making. But having said that, I was making pot holders till they're coming out of my wazoo, I'm telling you, because I was experimenting on all different ways to perhaps perfect my pot holder. My first, what it's going to end up looking, it's like a pocket pot holder with pockets that you put like either a spatula or a like a recipe card in the pocket, folded. I'll show you my prototypes. This was the first one I did. Now what you're supposed to do with these is you fold the pot holder and then you stick in your little spatula, just a little present, and then you wrap it up with a pretty little ribbon. And that in itself is a nice little present. So that's the concept. Okay, this is my first attempt. Now, I liked it. I thought it was pretty, but it's padded. It has Insulbright. It's thick. It really is nice and thick. It has the Insulbright, the insulated lining, which I'll tell you about. And it looks like it's bound and it's squared off. I'm not going to explain it, but it's not bound. I sort of use the backing to bind it. My thought process was I can't be bothered making a tiny little quilt and then having to bind it. It's supposed to be a quick and easy project. For me, binding is easy, but it's not quick necessarily. Making all your binding and cutting it and folding it. So that was my prototype, which I didn't love. My second one, and I forgot, they're supposed to have a little hanging thing. I forgot that one. So my second attempt was this one, which is cute. Which I got the pocket crooked. So I made this one, and it has the pockets, and you can fold it, and I actually, look, I put the hanging thing on it, right? There's the backing. I didn't even sew it because it was too thick. It was miles too thick. I broke about 3 needles because there's batting and fabric and Insulbright batting, which is a metallicized batting that you need for a pot holder, so your hands don't get messed up. And then all this thickness, and I broke needles because I didn't make the binding, right? But I wanted to be cute and do this around here. So anyway, that didn't work out. Oh, and I have actually, let me just say, I have from Connecting Threads, I have all this coordinating fabric. So I just was using these fabrics up. Pretty. I got pot holders galore now. So that was that one. I didn't love it. Then I came up with this one. And I thought, okay, Jean, put the hanging in the middle, so then when you put your little doodad thing in it, it makes more sense with a little ribbon. I liked this one. I thought this was pretty. And I actually figured out that, what did I figure out? Yeah, I figured out something. Oh, and I forget what I figured out, but that turned out nice. But anyway, I was going to make something else. Oh, and then I found this one. Oh, and this is not what we're going to do, but this turned out really cute. I don't know if you remember orphan blocks. Remember I made this quilt as an aside. I had a block left over. This is my famous 3-seamed quilt, sort of a cathedral windows quilt that you stick this in. Well, I made a quilt like this, and I had a bunch of blocks left over, me and my blocks. So I had these blocks left over, so look what I made. I made a little pot holder with the actual block with the pocket. And this ended up a bit smaller. And look, I put the block on the back of it. Isn't that cute? Now that's a cute little that's a cute little thingy. This was a little bit smaller than the other one. I think that I think I started like with a 9. I think these were like 9-inch squares or something. A little bit too small, perhaps. But anyway, that, wow, what a cute pot holder from an orphan block. So again, you can use scraps of fabric or blocks, that you have left over. But anyway, that's not, I'm sort of going to do this. I don't bind it, but I did this interesting little top stitching. So anyway, the tutorial is going to be this one. It's not all fancy schmancy. It is a pocketed one. It is backed. If you can see, I just back it and turn it inside out. But I get the look of the binding sort of with this top stitching around. So this is what I've made my tutorial on. I like the size. I believe I started with a 10-inch square. And you can put this in. I put the hanging thing on. I've rounded the corners, of course. And you'll see that it's nice and thick, but I didn't put the batting all the way to the edge because I was breaking these silly needles on it. So anyway, this is my little tutorial for today. It's a folded pocket, a folded pot holder, and then you can put a little bit of ribbon around it for a little present. I got this red cord. Remember my red cord? Look. Hold up. I got this red cord. I got red cord and orphan blocks. That's so funny. So I'm thinking, oh, I need a piece of ribbon. There you go. Anyway, and I have this pot that I got. I think that the spatulas you can, like you can get at the dollar store. This is cute. Just roll with it. So I don't think. Where did I get that? Maybe I got that at like Walmart or something. Cheap, So it's, what I'm saying, it's an inexpensive little present. So there you go. We're going to do a pot holder. And I think it's really cute. And I really tried for you folks. I did fairly detailed instructions. I think you'll be proud of me. I actually wrote down measurements and what you need for a pot holder. So anyway, here's my pot holder. Here's my little tutorial. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Bye. We are going between, as I was saying, we're going to be making our pot holder somewhere between this one, as I was showing you, and this one. They all sort of turn out different, as I was saying. Now, what we need for this project is, I've really done my job well here. Hopefully you can maybe refer to this video. You can make them as big or small as you want, but there is a bit of a science to my batting and my size of my quilt. My pot holder. First of all, for the front of your pot holder, which will be this part here, this front, and then this backing. Let me do this one. This front here and this backing. You're going to need 2 pieces of 10-inch squares for the front and the back. Then we're going to need, for this bit of pocket here, this pocket front here, we're going to need a piece 7 inches by 10 inches. So that will be going there. Then for the band that we are going to create, this band here, we're going to need a piece. I know it looks funny, but we're going to need a piece 10 inches by 9 inches. That is this little piece of fabric here. But that's going to be a 10-inch by 9-inch piece. Then we're going to need 2 pieces of batting. One piece of batting is going to be Insulbright, which they say there's no right or wrong side. I swear this is the wrong side. It's it's shiny, it has more metallicized in it, and this looks like a batting. So I think there's a wrong side, but we need 2 pieces, 1 piece of Insulbright, 1 piece of regular batting, and you want to cut them 8.5 inches. Then you're going to need 1 more piece of batting, which is going to be lining and padding the inside pocket of this pot holder, you're going to need one piece, 8.5 by 6.5 inches of batting. And then, we're going to be needing a little, a little piece of, for the tab, just a piece about, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide by 6 or 7 inches. We're going to cut that down. I'll show you how to do that. So I'll be putting that little tab up here. So that's the pieces of fabric that we're going to be needing. So after we've cut our pieces and arranged them, what we're going to be doing is you're going to be taking the front of your fabric, 10-inch square, and you're going to take the one piece of 8.5 inch batting and the one piece of 8.5 inch Insulbrite. What you want to do is you want to lay your Insulbrite down, and then you want to lay your batting on top of it, and then you want to center your top, your front of your pot holder on those pieces as such. Then you're going to take your pocket, your outside pocket piece, and do the same, except with this piece of the pocket, you're going to put the batting at the top. The 8.5 inch by 6.5 inch piece of batting for the inside pocket, you're going to put at the top. Now what we're going to be doing, it looks a little bit crazy. I'm going to take us over to our sewing machine. We're going to quilt these two pieces of fabric to make this quilted look here. And I found it easy to chain piece them actually. I'm going to start, what you want to do is you just sort of want to find your middle of your fabric. If you want to mark it, you can, but find your middle. And what we're going to do is I'm going to start at the very top where it's just fabric, and then come on to the batting, and then very carefully do a nice straight line right down the center here of my top, and then I'm going to chain piece the quilting right along the edge of this pocket here. And then we're going to do this about every inch. You're just going to go down every inch or so, leaving the ends free. So if you want to do it every 1.5 inches, every inch, I've done these, if you can see my bad, I've done it about every inch and a bit. So I only have a few. I have 1, 2, the center, say the center 1, 2, maybe 3 across my pot holder. But I'm going to chain piece and keep this, the reason I'm doing this is because when we line up my pocket, we just want the center stitching line to be the same, because we're going to stitch that down. So it's just, it was a little bit of a shortcut. We just want this quilting stitch to be the same. So you can eyeball it. Go take it over to your machine. I'm going to do that now, and then I'll come back. Now you'll see that I haven't even cut them apart. I wanted to show you that I've actually chain pieced these two pieces together. Now you'll notice that this piece, the backing, the front of our pot holder in the back has quilted up a bit tighter. That's because it has the 2 layers of Insulbrite and the batting, whereas this is just 1 layer. So it's not, it might shrink up a little bit more than this one. Don't worry about that. I've just gone from the top all the way through the bottom, chain piecing, and I'm just going to cut these bits across, and then we just need a little bit of a wiggle room. There's that piece right there. If it doesn't matter here, it doesn't matter here because of the quilting. Don't worry about that. We've taken that into consideration. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our outside pocket and the inside, we're going to take the inside pocket that's going to be, if you remember, this band. And what we're going to do is, all we're going to do is pretty sides together, right sides together. We're just going to stitch a very good, say 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit more than 1/2 inch. Don't do 1/4 inch. The reason why this seam here is the size of our banding, of our little top band, and I'll show you that. Don't worry about this. We've actually cut this a little bit bigger, but I'll show you when we turn it over what happens here on this pocket. So I'm going to go stitch about a half an inch, maybe a little bit longer, bigger, from having matched up the right sides together, the lining, the pocket lining, and the pocket. So as you can see, I've stitched the right sides together of my outside pocket to what's going to become the band, just that little band. So I've stitched a little bit more than half an inch, maybe even 3/4 of an inch. And then when we turn it inside out, like this, we get the lined pocket. You're not going to see that, but look at that. Automatically we have a built-in binding, as it were. That's why this piece has to be made a bit longer. Oh, look, it actually worked out. It's almost the exact same size. So now what I'm going to do, we have that bound top edge of our pocket. Our pot holder is coming together, if you can notice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this over to my machine, and I'm just going to stitch in the ditch. You can either stitch it right along that seam, or you can stitch it in the binding, whatever you want. I'm just going to stitch it right along that seam, just to secure my pocket down. So you'll notice that I've made my pocket, my fully lined pocket. And don't worry about the sides. What we want to worry about right now is this center quilting line. Remember, we quilted that line. Just match it up. This side's a bit bigger, this side's a bit smaller. That's okay. It's going to be taken up in the seam allowance and the width of the pot holder anyway. But what we want to do is secure, just catch as much as you can, secure this edge down. It might not match. Mine doesn't quite match. We just want to secure that. That's going to be caught into a bigger seam anyway. But we want to secure that, just this side, right there, just to secure it. And then this, as I said, this one is slightly bigger, but our quilting lines match up. We just maybe want to do it over on that side. It is bigger, but we're going to just go on this side of the 10-inch square. It does get a little bit wonky, as I said, because of the quilting takes up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this off, this excess of this pocket here. We have the makings of our pot holder, right? Now, though, what we want to do is, I've completely forgot on one of my videos, I forgot to put my hanging tab. What we want to do is, I have this little piece of fabric here. All we're doing is we're just turning it inside. If you want to iron it, by all means, you can. If you want to make it a bit wider, a bit thinner. I turn both edges into the center, and then I'm trying to keep my fingers out of it, and then I just turn it into the on the fold there. And then what I'm going to do is, hopefully my hands won't get in the, oh my word. Isn't that something? My thread always unthreaded. I'll just turn it around like this. Hopefully you can see. And then just turn it in, and then I'm just going to stitch very close. This is the hanging tab at the top center of our pot holder. Just turn it in. As I said, if you want to iron it and pin it because you're not sure, by all means. But I think you can do it. Just turn it in, and I always make it longer so I don't have to. I can just cut off the excess. It's just literally a bit of excess. So here's my, excuse me. So here's my hanging tab. Now I want to make it. I want to have it about that long. So I'll cut off about an inch on each end, and I'll just sew it to the top middle. And there's your guideline. There's your guideline, your quilting stitch. You want to start stitching it tightly. Remember, it's a couple pieces of fabric. You want to back stitch and back stitch and back stitch along here. so it doesn't, so your tab's not going to pull out. So, and then that gets caught in our seam. Now we're almost done. Oh my word! What we want to do is we want to match up the front and the back. Now what we want to do though is, remember what I do in all my quilts. I actually curve my corners. So I'm going to put my 2 corners. I know how to do this, but by all means, if you're uncomfortable, get a marker, get a little lid. I will keep these ends, these 4 corners, the top 4 corners together, and I know I'm going to keep those 4 corners together, and I'm just going to cut a small curve. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to sort of just match it up with each corner as it was. And then I'm going to cut these corners. It's not that much of a curve yet, but when I sew it, I'm going to really curve it. But it's fine. It'll be fine. So I take these, what I've cut, and I just square them up there, and I'm going to cut my curves here. You can do it a lot more scientifically if you really want. But that's how I do it. So now I have a curved corner. Now, do you see why we didn't put the batting and the Insulbright up to the seam? That would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces of fabric in this seam. And I broke needles. I broke a ton of needles. So I'm like, forget that. So we're going to find out where our top pocket is here. Our pocket's at the top. Now we're going to need to turn this inside out. We're almost done. We're almost done. So what we're going to do is I start only about an inch. I want to get this curve. I want to just cut that corner off because I don't want that in my seam. I'm going to curve this corner here. But I want to start about here, right about there, about 1.5 inches from the corner, and then I'm just curving around here, and then I'm actually just matching it. I'm just sort of right on the edge of that batting. If I catch it just a few bits, it's fine. If I don't, it's fine. I want to cut this little corner of my batting off. Just cut it off so it's not a big lump in your corner. I'll cut this one off if you need be. Then I'm just going to come around this corner on the top. Now I want to enclose I want to enclose my hanging tab real good. So what do? I go back, I go back, I go back. And then I'm just going to come around this curve. And I'm going to come down here. Just cut this corner off here because I don't want all this batting here. I'm going to come on this curve here. And I'm going to reinforce it like that. Now, what I'm going to do, let me just see if what I'm going to do is what do I do? What does Jean do? I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to reinforce this seam along here. You can't ever have too strong. This is more of a utility item. I certainly don't reinforce on my quilts, obviously. But on a utility item, I do. On my oven gloves, I did. On a drawstring bag, I do. On a pot holder. Because I don't want it falling apart. There's a lot of fabric here. And how long did that take? Just a few seconds. Now, we're almost done. I'm going to put my hand in here, and I'm going to just start pulling out. I'm going to pull out my pot holder, and you're really going to need that large of an opening because you're pushing an awful lot of batting and stuff through your pot holder here. So there's my corners, there's my tab. It's nice and sturdy. It's not going to pull out. Here's my corner here. I'll take this corner, push it out there. And I'll bring this corner and push it out here. And look what we have. What do you think, folks? We have a lovely little pot holder. So now what I'm going to do is we have this bottom piece here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my ironing board and I'm going to very carefully tuck all of this in to where the seam is. Make sure it's nice on the back, it's nice on the front. I'm going to iron that. I'm going to press this really well now. There's our back. Here's our front. That could have been a little bit more centered, but who cares? That's fine. So now I'm going to go press this, and I'll come back and I'll show you how I finish it up. So here is my iron, my pressed pot holder. Looks like a pot holder. Now what I'm going to do is, what you could do is you could hand stitch this opening here, right? Well, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I've pressed it very carefully, and starting just, there's no rhyme or reason, but just starting from the center of the bottom, very, 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 very close to the edge. I'm actually going to do 2 bits of top stitching on my pot holder. So I'm going to stitch really, 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 really close to the very, very bottom edge. Just catching that. Hopefully my hands aren't in the way. Just going around that curve. I like this bit of top stitching. Just go slow. There might be a little bit of batting, as you can hear, and it might be a little bit thick on this part because we do have a few layers of fabric. Just go slow. But it's not like 10 layers of fabric or you'd be breaking your needles. Seriously. So here we are. Going to come around that curve. This is at the very, very top. Right over that. And around this next curve. I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way. Just on the edge. Just on the edge there. And actually this tiny little bit of the backing has just sort of peeked through, but it's sweet. It's cute. It's fine. And again, you can the different fabric combinations. You really can use tons of scrap fabrics. Just coming to that line. Actually, now I can finish up. I'll just come to that line. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to actually stitch right along this quilting line, right down the center of my quilt. I'm just going to go over from this bottom edge. Now it's thick. I'm just going to go over, see how this matches up nicely? I'm just going over that quilting stitch right there. And this is going to make our 2 pockets. And this is where it's been quilted. So I come over the band. I want to just reinforce that a little bit, back stitch. And then there's a little tuck, but that's okay. I come right up to my tab there. And clip my threads. Now what I like to, it could be almost finished. I mean that's awesome, isn't it? But what I do like to do on my sort of prototypes here, I actually went back and I actually stitched about maybe a little bit over 1/4 of an inch, just to enclose, just to like decorify it up. Maybe a bit more, maybe 1/4 of an inch away from that stitching line. And I just, if you can see, I'm just following that curve right along, going slow. Now you can feel maybe it has, it's going over quite a few layers of batting. And then here, remember, you don't want to go whizzing through it. You could break a needle. Around this corner here, up here. Around that corner. I just feel it makes more of a decorative, push my little band. I just feel it makes a little bit more of a decorative finish to the edge of my binding without my pot holder without making binding. You know, like I was saying, I don't be fiddling around with binding. This literally can take you about 20 minutes from start to finish. And binding a little quilt, and I don't know. So I like the idea, and I just finish up, I like the idea of backing it and doing it just like, you know, a little pillowcase. There's our thing, and it's not quilted as such on this side, but that's okay. And there's not a tremendous amount of batting in the edges, but literally if you use a pot holder, you're using it like that anyway. So there is my handy dandy little pot holder. So then you would fold it in half. The corners are nice. I mean, the corners are nice. Stick a little, you know, something in there, tied up with a little ribbon. What a sweet little present. What a sweet little practical present that you can use scraps up, 10-inch squares, some scraps. So I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial and fiddle around with different sizes. What size is this? Yeah, now this, oh yeah, that's it's a little bit smaller. So I think that was like an 11-inch. But if you like a little bit taller, but then just figure out your measurements. But as I gave you measurements. Look at that. I gave you measurements for the first time. I hope you could understand this, and I hope you enjoyed it. So thanks a lot, folks. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching my tutorial on my pot holder. Okay, bye.